What's up, man? Lost in Seattle. And we're going to talk about the Dylann Roof situation. Now, Dylann Roof is the, what was he, 21 at the time when he went into a church, a historical black church.
Church.
Yeah, and shot 9 black people during service, during Bible study. Wicked as hell. Came in, sat next to him, and they invited him in. That's what happened when you have no discernment.
Yep. And let me tell you, a pastor that had discernment.
Yeah.
Pastor Darby did a great video.
Bring him up every video, boy.
Pastor Darby did a great breakdown of what he would have did if Dylann Roof would have came to his church.
So you had this guy coming to the church, and they immediately went into open arms. Now I'm not going.
They're Christians.
Yeah, I'm not going to cast aspersions on them and say they would have did differently if a black person came in. I don't think they would. I think they would have did the same thing. But it is strange that you didn't look at this white dude coming into your church and think, "Who is this?" You got to ask questions. Who are you?
Who sent you?
Who are you? Why are you here? How did you find out about this church? What are you here for? For them to just let him in and he allegedly sat through a Bible study with them, that's just crazy. So he was given the death penalty and he tried to get,
appeal.
Life. Yeah, you try to get an appeal for life instead of the death penalty. And the court upheld his death penalty.
They had no choice.
There's no way. Well, I don't know. I think they would have just gave him life. People would have been like, he had life, whatever.
No, they wouldn't have.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
Because it would have sparked backlash with African Americans.
You think?
Who would say, once again, you did not stick to your verdict that you gave a white person. Once again, they get off.
Yeah. A federal appeal court has upheld the conviction and death sentence of Dylann Roof, the man who was found guilty of killing 9 members of the black church in South Carolina. According to the Washington Post, a 3-judge panel unanimously rejected Roof's request for a redo of his sentencing hearing. His attorney filed a motion back in May claiming the 27-year-old convicted murderer was delusional and too incompetent to stand trial. The federal appeals court in Richmond, Virginia didn't buy the argument. No cold record or careful perusing of statutes and precedents can capture the full horror of what Roof did, the judges wrote in the opinion. His crimes qualify him for the highest penalty that a just society can impose. We have reached this conclusion not as a product of emotion, but through a thorough analytical process, which we have endeavored to detail here. In this, we have followed the example of the trial judge who managed this difficult case with skill and compassion for all concerned, including Roof himself. On June 17, 2015, Roof entered the Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston and killed 9 black parishioners as they were conducting Bible study. Prosecutors provided evidence that indicated Roof was a white supremacist who carried out mass shootings alone. They also pointed out some of his writings in which he expressed his desire to start a race war. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I remembered it coming out that he was not alone. He did a shooting alone, but he was not alone in what he was doing.
I never knew the church was named Mother Emanuel.
Yeah.
I've never heard a church called Mother.
I don't know. Dylann Roof murdered African Americans at the church during the Bible study and worship, or opinion read. They had welcomed him. He slaughtered them. He did so with the express intent of terrorizing not just his immediate victims at the historically important Mother Emanuel Church, but as many similar people would hear the mass murder. In 2017, Roof pleaded guilty to state murder charges and received 9 consecutive sentences of life without parole. He became the first person in the United States to be sentenced to death for a federal hate crime. As pointed out by the Post, Roof legal team has the option of asking for appeals court to reconsider the panel ruling or take appeal quest to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, I find it funny that he's the first person to be charged with a federal hate crime.
All these hate crimes.
I'm sorry, sentenced to death for a federal hate crime.
All these hate crimes
all committed. These lynchings and all this. Never. He's the first person for a federal hate crime.
Like you said, I know they have all those pictures of white people standing there during lynchings, having pick a nigger picnics. Yet they go back and find these Holocausts.
Yeah, 100-year-old men, former, as they call them former Nazis. I don't know how you become a former Nazi.
Just in the picture, smiling in glee, teeth showing and everything.
But we're gonna listen to somebody else's opinion on this.
Here we go. We're dealing with another one.
Hold on. All right, this is Marc Lamont Hill.
2 in 1 day.
Marc Lamont Hill is against the death penalty.
Which is he's entitled to that opinion.
So with that, he has to be against the death penalty for everyone.
He should have just shot the fuck up and didn't say nothing.
But first I want to get to this. You notice there's a little tag at the bottom? Woman testifies about her sexual relationship with R. Kelly. If you go on Black News Channel,
that's all they talk about.
They've been talking about R. Kelly. It's this news source. Report the news. That's fine. Black News Channel should report on Black News, whatever. But I noticed when that dude Ed Buck was on trial, they did 2 or 3 videos on him. They didn't follow the trial day for day. They didn't care. But we're told that the Black community is anti-LGBT and all this other stuff. We don't care about it. Yet, Black News Channel was supposed to be this progressive Black news channel. Didn't cover it nearly as much as they are R. Kelly.
Because it was black men.
That's a point you can make. It was because it was black men dealing with Ed Buck. They didn't care. And
he was getting black men that were in dire situations. They were homeless, out on the street.
Drug addicts. They just didn't cover it that much.
But you didn't cover it. You didn't have no sympathy for these black men who were being used for their bodies.
Now, let me say this. On the other hand, I don't support that lifestyle, obviously.
Obviously, we don't support that lifestyle. We're just trying to point out the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy I'm
talking about the hypocrisy of Marc Lamont Hill.
Of course, and he looked high as hell.
Marc Lamont Hill be blazed the hell up on these shows. He be high as hell on these shows.
Look at this man.
But I'm calling him out because he's a hypocrite.
Or he on some type of medication. I'm gonna say allegedly. Allegedly. He looks high as hell, or he on some type of pills.
I don't know. But he's a hypocrite because when he talked to Judge Joe Brown, he called Judge Joe Brown a misogynist.
Yeah.
He called him homophobic.
Yep.
Yet you didn't cover Jeb Bush. I mean, it's not Jeb Bush.
Ed Buck.
Jeb Bush is a Lord.
Ed Buck and his black male victims.
You didn't talk about Ed Buck that often. But it is.
Did he even go interview? Did you do any interviews on these men who had?
It is what it is. Let's listen to what he had to say about Dylann Roof.
In Charleston, South Carolina, the death sentence for a man who went inside Mother Emanuel AME Church back in 2015, shooting and killing 9 people there, is being upheld. Dylann Roof challenged his sentencing in the U.S. 4th District Court of Appeals. In 2017, Dylann Roof was the first person in the U.S. sentenced to death for federal hate crime. Roof's attorneys argued that he was wrongfully allowed to represent himself and that he suffered from mental health issues that were not revealed to the jury. Rejecting his appeal, the court recounted how he targeted Mother Emanuel as a historically black congregation. He joined a Bible study with its members for over 45 minutes, and while they prayed, he took out his gun and began shooting. Dylann remains on death row in Indiana. All right, family, it is time for an unpopular opinion. Dylann Roof should not be given the death penalty. I know people are going to say, why would you say such a thing? Dylann Roof is a monster. They're going to say he walked into a church and killed all those saints. He prayed with them. He did Bible study with them. And when their heads were down praising the Lord, he killed them. He is a white supremacist who targeted black people. How could you say he doesn't deserve the death penalty? Well, that's exactly why he doesn't deserve the death penalty, because this death penalty right now is being used to normalize it. Of course, you take the biggest monster in the world. You take somebody whose guilt is unquestioned. You take somebody who nobody likes in their right mind. You take somebody who did one of the most awful things we've ever seen or heard. And then you give him the death penalty and everybody says, okay, fine. So there are cases where the death penalty works. And then guess what happens? The death penalty is then used not just for the Dylann Roofs of the world, not just for the Boston Marathon bombers. It's far more often going to be used against black and brown people. We cannot.
Here we go.
I'm so tired of y'all talking about a damn black and brown people. This is supposed to be a black news channel. Somebody please tell me, please in the comment section, if you even believe that analogy of black and brown, why? Go ahead. I don't get it. I just be waiting for it to come out of their mouth.
So he's trying to make the point that if you allow them to kill Dylann Roof, give him the death penalty, that it, at some point we use against black people.
No, black and brown people.
But what about George Steiny, the 14-year-old black boy giving the death penalty. How the hell is how they gonna set the precedent with Dylann Roof when they already been doing it?
They already been doing it. So what is he talking about?
This is not gonna set it. What are you talking about? It's already used against them.
That's a great point you brought up. What is he talking about?
What the hell are you talking about? He does look. Ooh. Listen, there's a such thing, justice. When someone does an act like that, they are useless to society. There's no point in putting him in prison for life because he's never getting out. Get him out of here. Pack him up. What are you talking about? You don't let someone like that just live.
You know what? I pray. When are black people going to wake up? They all like the stuff they say don't make no sense. How they've been doing what they wanted to do to us this whole time. So how is this now going to just magically affect black people?
It's already affecting them.
And go to Telemundo News and see how many times they've said brown and black on Telemundo. You ain't gonna hear it.
Fall victim to the game. The death penalty has become increasingly unpopular, but we can't let moments like this become the moment where we pivot back to becoming a nation that kills its citizens. The death penalty, it doesn't work. It doesn't make people more likely to put down their guns and not murder somebody. It doesn't make somebody less likely to kill somebody.
Wait,
that's a lie.
The death penalty is not to stop you from doing something. The death penalty is a punishment for doing something.
In the Bible, there's a such thing as death penalty. You could stone people to death.
Well, I don't know what his religion is.
I'm just saying.
No, my point is, I don't know. He might not believe that in the scriptures.
Well, I'm telling him, and in the scriptures, there is a such thing as death penalty.
It doesn't matter if you don't believe it.
It exists. I'm not saying it. We don't know what he believes. What I'm just saying is, it exists. This is supposed to be a Christian country.
It's supposed to be.
So that goes along with the Christian doctrine.
Well, the Christians, this Christian country also believed in slavery and demoralizing the other.
Well, slavery is in the Bible, but they did it in a wicked way of slavery.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't. They already doing this stuff. The death penalty is not meant to make you not do something. That's prison. The death penalty is you've done something so heinous. There's no point in you. You're not getting out of prison, and you did something so heinous. The family that you did this to, they gonna want justice. So we just gonna get you up out of here because prison ain't enough for you.
The death penalty does not dissuade people.
And according to him, then giving somebody life don't work.
So why lock them up?
Because if I give you life in prison, you're in prison. So even if you did something at 22 and you turn 70 and you're a different person, you're in prison. You're not getting out. So what's the point of changing?
This is Marc Lamont Hill's logic of stuff.
The only way you could believe that is if you are a religious person. And so you say if somebody do something at 20, you want them to be able to live till 70 to change their life and have a chance at salvation. That's if you're religious.
But we don't know what.
But I don't know what his religion is.
We don't know what he follows.
People for murder. In fact, in states where there is the death penalty, murder rates are often higher. It doesn't work. It doesn't do what y'all say it's supposed to do. We get it wrong.
Well, then prison don't work.
What are we? How many?
Your people still kill people and commit crimes, so prison don't work.
How many times do people get out of jail and go right back to jail? How many relatives you know that be in and out of jail their whole life? He's saying the prison system does not work, and you cannot be. What's the word they use? You cannot be
resocialized. They say that.
Yeah, you cannot be resocialized and put back into society.
Yeah,
which goes against these people who go to prison, change their life, tries to change their ways, and then wants to be a part of the system by being able to vote.
Yeah, you can't
being able to get a job and not have stuff on your record. They're trying to fight to have those stuff removed out of your record so you can get a job. So he's saying that doesn't work.
So this is one of those things where he does deserve it, Dylann Roof. I don't know how you come to this conclusion that if you give it to Dylann Roof that it'll affect. It's already happening. Didn't somebody, I can't remember his name. There was a man who was trying to get off the death row. I think that was last year. And he had his final petition and they said no. And he was executed. It's still happening. So But if you believe that there should be no such thing as the death penalty, I do respect him being across the board.
I don't respect him for being a Pan-Africanist.
But yeah, man, I respect him for at least standing up for his belief on the idea of being against it. He went across the board, but I just don't agree with him at all. But anyway, man, y'all be safe. All praise to the Most High, and peace, man.